Everyone to the latest Drewry webinar. Today's topic is Spotlight on India, Ports and Decarbonisation. So this should be an interesting subject. The presentation will take around 30 minutes, followed by a short question and answer session. If you have any questions, you're able to type this on the question panel on your screen, and we will endeavor to answer these questions at the end of the presentation. If we're not able to answer all of them, given the time restrictions, we will get back to you by email with a response. Now, please also note that for everyone attending, this presentation will be recorded and available for download. So the information will be shared with you. Okay, now most of you attending this webinar are familiar with Drewry, but if you don't mind, I'll just take a few moments for those who may not be so familiar. Drewry was established in 1970. It has been active in the shipping industry for well over 50 years, with offices established in London, Singapore, Shanghai, and Delhi. Drewry has four main business units, which you can see at the bottom. That's Maritime Research, Maritime Advisory, Supply Chain Advisory, and Maritime Financial Research. In terms of the advisory unit, Drewry provides independent services to a wide range of clients, including shipping companies, financial institutions, port authorities and operators, and government entities. This encompasses a wide range of project remits, including strategic planning, due diligence, feasibility studies, financial advisory, etc. In terms of Drewry Maritime Research, it provides comprehensive market reports on all the main shipping sectors, as you can see there on the left part of the screen, in addition to ports and terminals. As part of its services, this information is produced in publication format and also on a web-based platform known as Drewry On Demand. So please contact us if you have any further information or question as to Drewry's products. Okay, let's move along to the presentation. This session will be hosted by Jayendu Krishna and Shailesh Garg. Jayendu is the head of Drewry Advisory in Singapore, with numerous experience in shipping and port-related mandates. Shailesh is the director and manager of the Indian office, also with numerous years in research in shipping, ports, and logistics. My name on the right of the screen is Sean Fairley, who has been working with Drewry now for 2 or 3 years. Okay, after that introduction, I'll now pass you over to Shailesh.
Hi, thanks, Sean, and hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on India's Maritime Vision 2047. The topic and the spotlight is Indian ports and decarbonization initiatives. And this is important because we are at an inflection point in the maritime sector in India, where government is taking multiple initiatives to really take this forward in terms of capacity creation, productivity, and also taking care of the green and environment and basically looking at the sustainable development. So this creates a significant opportunity for various stakeholders. But at the same time, there are some questions and concerns, so which we will be discussing. However, for the benefit of our audience who may not have joined our last session, which was focused more on shipbuilding and ship repair, I will briefly talk of how India's maritime ambition has evolved and what is the roadmap for the future, and how it could be different, and what kind of opportunities it can provide to various stakeholders. So bear with me. I'll just quickly run through some of the important aspects of Maritime Vision 2047. So as we know, we are a growing economy, 6th largest economy, most populous nation. We have a major role in global seaborne trade, but somehow we have not been able to leverage our maritime ecosystem. And historically, we have tried that, but we have not achieved our full potential. So India's maritime development, if we can see this slide, has moved through phases. The initial policy initiative came in late 90s through PPP participation, primarily coming in the port sector, which has been a success story for India. We had some really good container terminals developed under this, like NSICT, Chennai Container Terminal, Tuticorin was the another early ones, followed by many more. Then the more focused policy came in 2010, where government looked at a holistic on the maritime sector and how to develop it. And the plan was targeted for next 10 years of growth and expansion of maritime in India, which was further then looked into it with addition of logistics and other sectors. And it became in 2020, we revised it as a Maritime Vision 2030. So that was again looking at not only the ports and logistics, but also other ecosystems where it was multimodal transportation, container train operations, and also looking at inland waterways, coastal maritime. So this was a more, I can say, holistic approach to the whole maritime agenda. And while we were working on this, I think the government has taken a much larger vision now, which is called as India Maritime Vision Amrit Kal 2047, which is more long term rather than looking at a smaller, shorter or medium term like 5 to 10 years. It is going up to 2047. So that's like when it was launched, it was like 22 to 23 years time frame. So if we see, these are the action points for Amrit Kal Vision 2047. The name itself is like a golden era, Amrit Kal, which is kind of coinciding with our 100 years of independence. So as we see we have gone through the phases of economic economic policies and regulatory changes and other initiatives and interventions and push through different maritime agendas but have not been able to unlock the entire potential. And the key reasons identified for this was lack of cohesiveness in the plan, because there were multiple agencies involved and there was always kind of lack of coordination and limited focus on long term. So we were always chasing some short term and medium term goals, and that was not helping. So to overcome these challenges, Indian government launched Maritime Amrit Kal 2047 in 23, which was at that point covering 25 years, ending in 2047. So this is more holistic in long-term planning, covering not only the physical infrastructure, but also looking in other themes like green and safe maritime, which I just mentioned, training and research, because that is also very important, because we need trained manpower to really achieve the targets which we are looking for. Definitely leveraging the technology like smart ports and to make our port system more, you can say, productive and efficient, which also includes AI-enabled port ecosystems, supported by development of Indian tonnage, shipbuilding, and other financial and regulatory support. So these are some of the action points within the maritime vision which we have looked at. So the roadmap which we are looking, which is taking us to the Amrit Kal Vision 2047, is ambitious and develop into global maritime power by 2047. That is where we want to see India, by using all the available resources and levers with the stakeholders, government. Some may say that, and that is not completely wrong, that this may look ambitious, because going by the past track record and the growth rates we have achieved, this looks ambitious. But I think this is the right way and directionally consistent with our broader national aspirations of becoming third largest economy and also as a developed nation. So ports and logistics will play a very important role, and this is very important for us to work on this if we want to achieve those targets also. So I think in the totality, we say this is the right direction, but yeah, is a challenging one. So these are the three main growth framework: shipbuilding, shipping, and ports. As I just mentioned, that government's approach is moving from incremental expansion to system level redesign as a catalyst for developing both industrial and geographical capabilities. And this has become more important in the current geopolitical scenario, where we are seeing how we are being affected by events which are not happening in our own country, but somewhere else, and we are getting affected. And this is impacting our trade and our economy directly, indirectly. And therefore, the government is taking every step to provide financing support, infrastructure development, technological support, and also demand aggregation to support these all investments being made by various stakeholders. So we have already discussed shipbuilding, shipping in our last session. So today we will be focusing more on ports. So that is our agenda today, ports, along with all the initiatives which we are taking to make our maritime sector more sustainable, that is decarbonization. So that would be our focus in today's session. And I'll start with ports, and my colleague Jayendu would be then taking over on the decarbonization. So in this section, port development in India, I'll just very quickly go through the past growth trends, current positions, and plans for expansion and development of port and allied sectors in India. So this is a very quick overview which I will give you. We have got almost 7,500 plus kilometer long coastline, which is an advantage. We have 12 major ports. When we say major ports, which is directly being governed by Ministry of Shipping, we have got 200 notified non-major ports, which are typically governed by state governments, which are under maritime boards or similar institutions. And that's the network of ports which we can see on the screen. So we have a very well spread of ports on both on the east and west coast. As far as our past growth is concerned, India's total port traffic has increased from just under 1,300 million tons to almost just under 16 million tons, 1,600 million tons, which is at the end of 24-25 financial year, which gives us a CAGR of 3.5%, which is not very strong, but a robust one. We should also understand we had some couple of bad years in between because of COVID and other things. So that has been a slightly, you can say, not such a strong growth which we would have expected because of all the initiatives taken prior to that period. Container traffic growth has been slightly better because we grew from 16.7 million TEU in 18-19 to 24.3 million by end of financial year 25, which is like CAGR of 60. I think that dash is slightly wrong here, so please don't read it as minus, and that's a typo, I guess. It's a CAGR of positive 6.4%. So that has been a much better than if you see the other sectors in totality, and container has been a, you can say, cornerstone of our maritime sector and port development. Port capacity, as on end of the period of financial year 25, we were just under, for major ports, 16 million tons, and non-major ports roughly giving 1,000 million tons. So all in all, we have around 25 to 2,600 million tons of capacity available today. So which is like we have spare capacity for our further growth, to absorb the further growth. In terms of share, minor ports, non-major ports as we call them, have increased their share in the national traffic, but major port is still hold 55% share in the total, and in container it's slightly higher, 56%. And in terms of capacity, again, major ports have a 62% share. So my non-major ports are growing, and they have developed over the last 10 years in a big way, and I'm sure they'll catch up soon and probably become as big as, if not bigger than the major ports, because there are plans to develop new major ports also. So if we quickly look at what is the plan for modernization for ports in India and development of the overall capacity. Overall port handling capacity is currently 2.5 billion tons, and we want to make it 10 billion tons. So it's a huge number. We're looking at 2047. So from now, like 22 years. This involves development of two new major ports and 3 transshipment hubs to reduce our dependence on transshipment on foreign ports. This is one of the important topics rightly going on and debatable also. And then we want to really improve our capacity in terms of handling bigger vessels, bringing economies of scale. So plan is to develop deep draft ports having 18 to 23 meters, which currently we are having 4 or 5 ports, and to increase the number to 13 ports. So that would be important for us to achieve what productivity levels we want to achieve. Further, this would be augmented by smart ports. So we want to develop clusters, port clusters, so we can have economies of scale, integrating major and non-major ports. We want that our ports should be 100% just in time. Vessels should not be waiting, and we could leverage our knowledge in IT and other technological tools available to really operate our ports more efficiently. So that is what the smart ports would like to do with other automation and other things available now. Most important things which apart from this is we are looking is green and sustainable port. I think this is very important in the modern times. We not only because the regulatory environment is changing, but also as a responsible nation, we want to do that. So carbon neutral by 2047. We want to have more ports having LNG bunkering facilities, shore power, which we will discussing in some of the slides after this, and looking for alternative fuels and like hydrogen and ammonia hubs for shipping. So this is the target we're looking for, and we want to achieve that to become a more sustainable ecosystem in the maritime. The way we want to really achieve this is through a more active private participation. So as I said, ports have been our cornerstone for public-private partnership, and we have seen many successful investments and projects in the last 20 years. And that is what the way forward is. So we want that we should have more PPP capacity coming in. So currently we have in major ports 51% of cargo being handled by PP berths, and we want to make it at 100%. So basically increasing the private participation. We have PM Gati Shakti program, which is probably looking at how to look at these progress in an integrated way and try to remove all the hurdles and bureaucratic challenges which we have been facing in project implementation. Asset monetization plan of the existing berths and terminals, and the Sagarmala project looking at a complete ecosystem for developing our maritime sector through PPP mode. So that is the objective, that we should have more private participation to really take this whole initiative of Vision 2047 forward. So this I think is where a lot of opportunities will be coming and already are there in the market. As I was mentioning about port cluster, so this is an overview of where we are looking at new port development coming in the future. So we have some existing ports, major ports, like in Gujarat, if you see, we have Kandla, that is now called Deen Dayal Port, and Tekra Port Cluster, which is being developed. We have region near Mumbai and South Gujarat, which we already have JNP, and then Vadhavan being proposed there as a mega port, which will be another big port cluster coming in, followed by our ports in South India and East India. I'll not go on each of them, but that is what the plan is, that we should have these developments in the existing clusters and probably developing some new ones, both on the east and west coast. Idea is to have a complete ecosystem rather than having ports in isolation. So that's the new way of looking at maritime development in India. And these clusters would be just not an isolation port development projects. And to support this port development, we are looking at a more efficient and in both terms of operations and capacity, logistics connectivity. Because in the past, we have seen that many ports in India, they were developed, they had good infrastructure, but could not leverage their full capacity and potential because of lack of inland connectivity through rail and road. Either it was absent or it took more time than what it was initially envisaged. So ports suffered, they couldn't achieve the cargo throughputs they could have done. And this has been seen as a critical success factors for any port coming in India. So we have already seen dedicated freight corridors being developed, Western DFC. We are more or less there. We will very soon have the final connectivity to JNPA, which is dedicatedly looking at container evacuation from all the major ports on the west coast. We have Eastern DFC, which is primarily more focused on the bulks cargo movement, both domestic and exim cargo. And we are now planning few more dedicated freight corridors. So that would be one way of looking at how to increase our share of rail in the overall transportation. I think that is also one of the idea to decongest our roads, which is primarily the primary mode when we look at it. Then these will be having a support infrastructure of ICD, port-based ICDs and CFS, high-speed rail sidings and container terminals to bring the cargo closer to the actual importers and exporters. So decongest the ports and the port interland connectivity by last mile and by giving the road connectivity, building highways and roads which could deliver the cargo at the doorsteps. So I think these are the three ways we are looking, and this will be then complemented by our plans for inland and coastal movement also. So that is also part of the connectivity program which we are looking at. So if we want to see some numbers, overall port handling capacity has to increase. So this is a summary which we just mentioned. We are looking at almost talking of 10,000 million tons cargo. So which is a big number in next 22 years. We have already spoken how public-private partnership would play a key role. So the numbers we are looking at, port capacity is huge. We are looking at some 4 to 5 times of numbers coming here, which would mean that we will have to grow our capacity at a much faster rate as what we have achieved compared to in last 10 years, which itself is a challenge. Number of transshipment hubs, we already have now one, which is Wainjam, which has shown a great success at the last 2 years, and we plan to have 2 more. So in all 3 transshipment hubs in India. Ports with deep draft we have talked about. Operational efficiency, we have just mentioned how we want to leverage all our levers available in terms of technology and other things to improve our operational efficiency. Smart port is one of them. And then the green ports. So LNG bunkering, hydrogen ammonia hubs, shore to ship power facility. We already have 2 ports which are offering that, and we want around 14 ports to do that. And another aspect we are looking at, which has not been our focus till now, is how to increase our passenger volume, which is basically, if you look, we are 4th in the Asia Pacific, but if in total numbers, if you look, it is not great. And we feel that there is a potential to really promote and increase our presence in passenger and cruise sector. And that is where we want to position ourselves in next 20 years. Number of ports among top 20, we are only 1. So we want to have at least 4 in next 20 years. And cruise terminals, as I said, has not been our focus. And we really want to increase significantly our presence there from current 6 numbers to almost 25. So that is another area we are looking to expand and grow, because that's a growth opportunity for us. So all in all, develop world-class next generation ports, as we call it. So these are the aspirations which we have and we want to achieve through Amrit Kaal Vision 2047. Now, talking of 2 major initiatives which government has taken, I'm sure you must have heard about Vadhavan Port project, which is the mega port coming just north of Mumbai. It's a deep draft greenfield major port near Dhanu, which is border of very close to Gujarat border. And it is being done as a joint venture between JNPA and Maharashtra Maritime Board. The locational advantage is that it can get well connected by roads and rail, and including the dedicated freight corridor. The capacity planned is much larger than what typically in India we plan for our ports. It's close to 300 million tons, which will have almost 23 million TEU of container handling capacity. So looking at the scale, it's very important, and also important from the aspect that JNPA is now more or less in few years reach its capacity, and as of now there are no plans for expansion. Probably that's not possible in the given scenario. So we need a gateway which can really give an alternative to our shippers, not only in Maharashtra region or west coast, but also on the landlocked northern hinterland. So we need a port which can have that capacity to growth of next 20 years and provide that kind of infrastructure. So that's the importance of this project, and the kind of investment we are looking is huge, 8 billion as of now. This could increase with the given going forward. I suppose these are the initial cost estimates. 20 meters of draft, almost 18 berths, and offshore breakwater of more than 10 kilometers. And the current status is that the AFCONs have got the tender, bid. They were one of the successful bidders to construct the offshore breakwater. We are in the currently process of tendering for the dredging, which is a huge project, and it will be done on an annuity basis. So it's a called ham structure, which again, it is a PPP structure for dredging, which has not been done in the past. And this is something we are trying here, and therefore taking more time to really get the bids. And there are some large consortiums which are trying to bid for this project. As of now, I think 16th of August is the last date for submission of the bid. So let's see. Once that is done, I think the project will be moving forward much faster than what it has done in last 2 years, because the foundation stone was laid in almost like 2024. But since then, progress has been made, but not to the extent possible, because the plan was to have this commissioned in next couple of years, like by 28, 29, but probably it will take a couple of more years before we see the first terminal operational there. So next project is again very, very ambitious. We have this Galatha Bay in Andaman Nicobar at the southernmost tip of India, as we can say, of Andaman Nicobar, the last island. We are looking to develop a deep draft transshipment hub to really compete with some of the established hubs in the region. So the project itself is huge, 5.51 billion of projected cost, which it's and the government will be giving a viability gap funding. So because the project is challenging and probably financially in terms of for the private investors to come in, so there is a provision for viability gap funding to take care of that. Plant capacity is close to 12 million TUs in 2 phases, and as of now the target is to start construction sometime in 2028. So that's the target. And the whole idea is that we are currently dependent on international hubs like Colombo or Port Kelang or Singapore and a few others for our transshipment, which is primarily taking from East Coast and some of the southern ports in India. And we want to really take hold of that traffic in our own ports, and also then use this infrastructure for handling non-Indian transshipment, like from Bangladesh or other regional countries. So this is the idea, that why not use our locational advantage, which is very close to the international trade route currently, where most of the ships are passing, and really take that business at Galatha Bay. And it is just not looking at transshipment. I think if you have been reading and looking at what the justification for such projects is also strategic, because again, I don't want to repeat myself, but in the changing geopolitical scenario, these investments are becoming very important. How to protect and mitigate your risk, which probably could arise with potential geopolitical changes or happenings, which would be in different ways. So we have seen how it can impact any of the country. So I think this is also being looked at as a more of a strategic investment and a project. Although we have seen some of the challenges and also controversies arising on because of environment and other things, but as of now, government has told us that they have done their environment studies. They have got the clearance, and they're taking all the possible mitigation so to protect the environment there. And I think it is moving in the right direction currently, maybe a bit slow, because it is being relooked in some ways to make sure that everything is taken care of. But probably in next couple of years, we'll see some real action happening at this project. So if we see, this is what the opportunities lie for any investor or developer. Mega port clusters, PPP terminal and monetization, that is one of the fastest way to get into it. Green fuels and port decarbonization, my colleague Jayendu will speak, but many opportunities are rising there. Smart and predictive ports, where companies involved in technology can really participate. And port hinterland logistics gives a lot of opportunities to logistics companies to really being part of this development. So there is a complete ecosystem where both investors and developers can participate and provide lot many more opportunities than what we have seen in the past. And as Drewry, very quickly, I'll say that we have been part of this journey of India. We have been operating since in India 2003, and we have been working with various stakeholders. And as maritime advisors and research company, we have been advising a lot of stakeholders, which basically is how to really work along with these projects, prepare bankable feasibility studies to really see how to finance these projects and what are the risks and how to mitigate them, and also helping through the PPP structuring, financial modeling, and bidding process. So this has been our last 23 years of work which we have been doing in the maritime in India, and we are very confident that we can help anybody looking for investment and participate in this growth journey which India is looking for next 22 years. So with this, I'll close my session and hand over to my colleague Jayendu.
Yeah, thank you, Shailesh. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you are. So I will begin with the regulations first, and I'm sure many of you are aware of it, but just to quickly highlight where we are. So the regulations at the global level has been focused on SOx and NOx and the GHG as well. But what has been gaining really prominence is the greenhouse gas emissions in the recent years. So IMO, International Maritime Organization, has the ambition of making shipping net zero by 2050. And India committed after Paris COP21, India committed to become net zero by 2070. So slightly later than the aspiration that the IMO has set for itself. At the same time, we have seen the regional regulations coming from EU in terms of Fit for 55, which includes EU ETS, Emissions Trading Scheme, and Fuel EU Maritime. So all of these regulations essentially boils down to the vessels, and not only the vessels, but also it has its implications for ports. It has its implications for the fuel availability, the finance, and the operating standards for all the emerging fuels. So it's only with the help of alternate or the low or zero carbon fuel that the aspiration of IMO net zero can be met. But as of now, of course, the net zero framework, which was supposed to be approved by October 2025, some of the countries threw spanner in the works, and therefore it is not being approved. So there is a bit of uncertainty at the moment as to when that may be approved, but many countries, including India, continues to make strides. And you'll see in the next slide, it continues to make strides in terms of really trying to reduce the emissions from the ships and from harbor crafts, etc. So India's decarbonization or the emission reduction policy is clubbed under what is called the National Green Shipping Policy. So the National Green Shipping Policy has 7 different pillars for the emissions reduction, which really straddle from, say, green fuel to green ports, to shipping, finance, technology, ship recycling, and skilling. So as you can see, India has adopted a very multi-pronged approach to tackle the emissions reduction. And what I'll do in this presentation is, of course, we have a time constraint, and therefore I will not be able to go into the details of all the plans. But my plan is to focus on top three: green fuel, green ports, and green shipping. So in the next slide, you will see that we have discussed the green fuel. So currently, India is one of the largest importers of LNG. And LNG, for the past few years, has been one of the most promising alternate fuel for shipping. And there is a very wide adoption of LNG as a bunkering fuel. So India has currently the capacity or LNG import capacity to the tune of about 53 million tons. And about 16 million ton is expected to come in the next few years, which means India will reach somewhere around 70 million tons of capacity in the coming few years, which means that India will be very well positioned to provide the LNG bunkering fuel. And besides that, the government of India has been making a lot of initiatives with regard to promoting the fuel, such as ammonia, methanol, as well as hydrogen, which is slightly far-fetched at the moment, but nevertheless, that is also part of the plan. So we already saw very recently that one of the Indian companies signed an agreement with one of the Japanese companies for the supplies of green ammonia of about 400,000 tons per annum, as well as for green methanol to the tune of about 100,000 per annum. And these are really supported both from the government of India side in terms of production incentives, as well as from the Japanese government side in terms of the import subsidy in Japan. So as you can see, it's been really supported by both the governments, and it is also based on contracts for difference. And therefore, it appears that it is really heading in the right direction with all the right policy initiatives from both sides. And these will definitely go on to really facilitate the adoption of the ammonia bunkering or green ammonia bunkering and green methanol bunkering as well. But in fact, in terms of the bunkering infrastructure development, there is already a plan in place, and there has been some agreement signed with regard to green ammonia development in Kandla, which is a port on the west coast of India, as well as for ammonia and methanol in Tuticorin, which is in the southern part of India, very close to Chennai. So there is very clearly a concerted attempt to promote the development of alternate fuel in India. Now, moving on to the ports, in the next slide, you'll see that India is really choosing the multi-fuel pathway, which is essentially looking at all the fuels. And not only that, but when we focus on the port sector, there is a clearly laid out plan, and some of which Shailesh mentioned, is to really reduce the emissions from the port itself. In the map here, what you see is what is the renewable electricity consumption plan of different ports between 2023 and 2030. So there are two numbers out there. The first one is for 2023 and second one is for 2030. So New Mangalore port is already fully on renewable sources of energy, and many of the ports have made very good progress in terms of really trying to decarbonize itself. So that's one. But besides that, there are also plans for all the ports becoming carbon neutral ports by about 2047. And the government of India has been really trying to provide incentives, both in terms of providing incentive for the ports where the equipments will be running on the green fuel. If the port crafts are running on the alternative fuel, or even the ships which are running on the alternative fuel, they will get the priority berthing and the rebate in berth dues, etc. So as you can see, the government of India has been incentivizing various stakeholders in the industry. So essentially, yet again, even in the port sector, there is really a multi-pronged approach that we see government of India taking, much unlike what we have seen historically happen. Now, moving on to the third element, which is in the next slide, you will find that, Shailesh, can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so this is on green shipping, which is called, no, previous one, please, on green shipping, which is called the Harit Nauka, which essentially means green shipping. So in the previous slide, yeah, thank you, Shailesh. So what you can see here is that the government of India has adopted 8 different initiatives to promote green shipping for the inland and the coastal fleet. So the overarching ambition is to really transition to a low and zero emission propulsion systems for the ships. And some of the initiatives that you see is very much aligned with what we see globally happen in terms of be it the energy efficiency upgrades or introduction of or electrification of the harbor crafts, etc. And also essentially devising the standards and the framework to ensure that we measure the green shipping of the alternate fuel in an appropriate manner. And for that, even for these initiatives, the government of India is giving incentive to the tune of anywhere between 25% to 30%. So these are the 3 major initiatives which government of India has been taking. And if I can take you to the next slide, where I wanted to demonstrate the pace at which the development is taking place. So some of us may be more familiar with what has happened historically, but I think gone are the days and the speed in India has really increased. So what I'm showing you in this slide is just for last 6-7 months. There have been quite a few notable developments which have already taken place. And all of these are happening when the international international maritime organizations, the net zero framework hasn't been passed. So India already had a first methanol bunkering trial in Kandla. And you already had the orders for electric tugs in the country. And now what we are now going to see very soon is the commercial scale up. And that's, I'm very convinced that with the pace at which the government India's policy has been developing, and a lot of it is already being executed, the commercial scale up is really not far off. So moving on to the next slide, in terms of the to conclude the discussion that we are having. So what does it really mean for all of you who are in most likely the investors or industry participants? So we have split it into 2 parts. One is, of course, infrastructure, and it is much like what Shailesh mentioned earlier. So ports are almost sort of striving to become a fuel hubs, particularly Kandla and Tuticorin, and maybe in Paradip in the future, because you see the production of ammonia take place in the vicinity. And there is also a plan for running a shipping corridor or green corridor within India between Tuticorin and Kandla. Of course, the electrification is becoming a reality, but all of these require funding from various places. So there is an opportunity for all of us to really play a role in any segment that may be of our interest, be it in terms of investing in the fuel, investing in the fuel hubs, storage capacity, or even green corridors, or electrification, or even shipbuilding, which we covered at great length in the last presentation last week. So overall, I would say that India is not yet at scale at the moment, but it is really moving in the right direction towards a commercial scale-up. Now, this is sort of a repeat of what Shailesh said already as to what we can contribute or how can we assist you. We conduct lots of studies with regard to market sizing, with regard to the due diligence of the assets in the maritime sector. And we have, of course, as Shailesh mentioned, the team in India since 2003. And we also have an energy transition practice where we have dedicated professionals who are looking at the energy transition issues at the global level. So we are here to assist you in any way you need. So feel free to reach out to us. Sean, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Jay. Yes, we have we have a few minutes to answer some questions. Just to repeat that the presentation will be shared with the participants on today's call, and you'll be able to download it as well. Okay, so we have some questions. First question, does mega port clusters mean shipbuilding and ship repair and other maritime services? I think you're on mute. So yeah, just to repeat, so does a mega port cluster, does that mean also shipbuilding and ship repair and other maritime services?
Maybe not necessarily shipbuilding, ship repair, but it can include that. But definitely it would include other infrastructure like ICD, CFS, or multimodal parks, free zones. So that's the ecosystem they would like to build. But yeah, if possible and feasible and makes commercial sense, it can have shipbuilding or at least ship repair facility also.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Another question is, can you elaborate on PM Gati Shaktis and the asset monetization and the role of increasing the PPP participation?
See, role of PPP participation is very clear because government has already identified that the kind of investment these projects require would not be feasible for the government to really undertake the entire investment. So they are very keen that private participation should increase, and that's why they're taking so many initiatives to really make that happen. And as they say, ease of doing business, making regulatory changes to incentivize the private investors, making necessary changes in the regulatory aspect of tariff and port operations and ownership so that it makes more attractive for any investor coming in, mitigating some of the risk involved. So definitely that is what the plan is, and that is how it should be. It would be going in forward. And in terms of what was the second part? I forgot.
Yeah.
Monetization. Yeah.
Yeah, the monetization.
Yeah. So there are a lot of infrastructure, especially the berths and port infrastructure, including other support services which are being owned and kind of operated by the government or the port trust, when we call it as a major ports or port authorities. And there is a plan to slowly make it and invite private investors to take over. So the privatization of existing berths is one of them. You are seeing redevelopment of some of the berths, which is happening through PPP. So that's how government is trying to monetize some of the existing services and assets which they have. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We have another question. How big a role will project cargo and break bulk shipments play in India's ports?
Okay, I don't have a number to say how big, but I'm sure it is going to be an important aspect of the overall, because when we have so many projects coming in, and just not in the maritime sector, as the economy we are growing, so we'll have refineries coming in, and we will have power plants and wind farms and other things. So definitely there will be a big demand for project cargo and break bulk cargo coming in. So I would say that would be growing, and there is a growth which is potentially as high as maybe some of the other sectors, or maybe more than that, because at this point we are looking at massive projects which are being talked about. So all these projects will require a lot of project cargo to be moved in, maybe as an export import or along the coast.
If I can add to the points, Shailesh, that you made with regard to the project cargo. So the government of India, as per the NDC, which is the nationally determined commitment or contribution, has to install about, I think, 500 gigawatt of the non-fuel fossil fuel sources of energy by 2030. And out of that 500 gigawatt, I remember about 140 gigawatt, I think, has already been installed in the country. At the same time, as part of that, the plan is to have about 30 gigawatt of offshore wind by 2030. So with all of these, definitely there is an increased requirement for the offshore, for the project cargo. But how much project cargo is always a bit challenging to quantify. But just to give you these numbers, which clearly points to the fact that there will be an increasing requirement for project cargo in India.
We have a suggestion from the audience that says, can you create a solution provider forum in which we can suggest latest trends, technology to port operators? This will be useful to all stakeholders to enhance efficiency in the entire logistic chain.
Yes, I think government is already having different platforms, if not a common channel where they are meeting and talking to various stakeholders. So maybe we can suggest when we have interaction and we approach them to have something which is more central, where these things can be aggregated and come on through a single platform. Yeah. So maybe a good idea, because there are stakeholders who may not be part of these different forums which are working currently, and there may be issues which are unanswered or not looked into in great detail. So probably we can look into that and see if that can be done through whatever network we have.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Okay, I think we can I think we're available for one or two more questions. We have one here, sorry for my pronunciation, but can you say more about the Tuticorin and Kandala Green Corridor? You're on mute, Jay.
Sorry about that. Okay, so this green shipping corridor was announced not very long ago, and it is between Tuticorin and Kandla, and both these ports are considered as, or the plan is to make these two ports green shipping or green fuel bunkering hubs. And Tuticorin will probably be the first green methanol port in India. And we already had this, I think I did mention in my slides that Kandla had the first shore-to-ship methanol bunkering in April, and that was a trial one. So both these ports are being developed as a bunkering hubs. And in India, there is lots of coastal movement which happens in terms of the cargoes, various types of cargo which are produced in the western part of the country. So the plan will be that eventually some of those coastal shipping really takes place in those low or zero carbon fuel ships. But this is just been announced, so we have to really wait and watch for exactly how it really happens. But yeah, the key question will be as to who will pay for that incremental cost for green shipping. That remains to be seen. It is not only a problem for India, but globally, we have been debating in many of our studies that we conduct as to who will pay for the incremental cost. Even if you look at some other big players, they are not able to recover the cost of green shipping that they are providing. They are having to shell out a fraction of that green shipping cost. So that's a big question mark to my mind, but let us see what happens. But I'm sure as the regulation is tightened, the green shipping corridor in India will fructify.
Okay, very good. Okay, I think we have time for one last question. And as I mentioned earlier, that if there are questions that are not answered during this forum, we'll endeavor to get back to you via an email. So yes, the last question. Which Indian port or terminal development excites you the most, and why?
Okay, I'll leave it to Shailesh. Shailesh.
I think For me, it is a Dhawan port, because I think West Coast, we know that how busy it is, and it caters to the huge landlocked North India, which is a big hinterland with huge population. So for me, that would be something great, because it is just, we are not talking of containers, but multiple cargoes. The scale is big. It has got all the plant connectivities which are there. So I think that would be something which will be first for us to see that kind of project being implemented, and if it is successful, that would be the template for us to follow, I guess. So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, that's maybe a good time to end this presentation. So we'll thank everyone for joining today. As mentioned, this presentation will be available and will be shared. So yes, so thank you for joining, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Jayendu. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.